boy. More seeds. So that just made a mess. We have stock babies. Welcome to Flower City Blooms. If you can believe it, March is here. Before we move forward into March, I am really looking forward to sharing with you the past month of experiences and experiments. I have never started seeds indoors before, and I have never soil blocked before. And almost all of the plants that I have sowed so far, I have never planted indoors before. I've direct sowed, I've winter sowed, and like many of you, I've purchased garden flowers in the growing season. But stay tuned. It'll get interesting. And for some added fun, because my husband and I are both movie trivia geeks, some trivia questions throughout the day. Scan the QR code and you'll get today's trivia question, but I will post the image of what today's question is as of today's date, and if you stick around to the end, you'll see the answers. Good luck. Before jumping right into March, let's go back in time to February. Actually, let's go to January 28th.
Then tell me, future boy, who's president of the United States in 1985?
Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan? The actor? Then who's vice president? Jerry Lewis?
Welcome back to January 2026. Yes, we've had a lot of snow this year, and I've been keeping track. In December, we had nearly 38 inches of snow total. Same thing with January. So it's been an interesting year. But I'd like to keep track for future years as I am determining what I can accomplish outside. One new addition this year also is that I gifted myself a greenhouse. I'm really excited to get using it, but we installed it the first week of November, and literally 48 hours after it was installed, it snowed. It was our first snow. So I'm setting up my indoor space for starting seeds, which is a little bit more comfortable until this year when I can set up my greenhouse a little bit better. And I have to say it's pretty nice to have a little plant room in the house. My former wardrobe is now a space with south-facing windows and light, and pets that also like plants. So that's another thing that I have to figure out. Come on, out, out. Welcome to my planting space. We are going to try something that I was not intending to do at all this year. I already broke my January resolution, and that was to stop buying seeds. Lisianthus. What was I thinking? Let's see how this goes. So why did I not want to grow Lisianthus? Well, I've heard that she's a diva. So, it's requires a lot of patience. She takes a long time to grow. She's native to the US, but not to my environment, which is in the Northeast, which gets a lot of rain, which gets a very dynamic temperature changes. But she has an amazing vase life. She has really strong, stems, long stems, perfect for cut flowers. My favorite colors when it comes to cut flowers, you can find in Lizzie's. I guess we're growing Lisianthus. All right. We've got wool pellets. They're great nitrogen fixers, but also great for moisture retention in soil blocks, which is what we're going to be doing. We also got some vermiculite. Got my soil tray, my soil blocker. This is the medium size. This is from Johnny's Selected Seeds, 1.5 by 1.5. It's kind of like a cookies, cut out cookies. Anyway, so we got that. We've got some cinnamon, which is a great antifungal. Probably good to note if you are adding mycorrhiza to your soil recipe, maybe don't use cinnamon because this is an antifungal. Mycorrhiza is a fungus and it is good for soil, helps the roots communicate with each other. I don't have that, so I'm going to use this to prevent other bad fungus. Got my seeds. We'll go over those in a bit. And water. Always stay hydrated. Go lay down. I'm sure that you're wondering, why was my soil getting a bath? Well, there's an interesting story for that. The day that I decided to start my seeds for Lisianthus was also the day that I discovered my bag of soil that was in my garage was frozen. And no, I was not giving my Lisianthus the spa diva treatment that she very well deserves. But in order to thaw out my soil, I needed to get it warm enough. And the easiest way to do that was to put it in a tub with warm water. Unfortunately, that led to some many issues down the road, which you will see throughout this video. I do make mistakes. If you are an avid grower of seeds indoors and you're used to soil blocking and seed starting, I will let you know that you will see many mistakes in this video. But as the saying goes, especially when it comes to YouTube trends and vlogging, we listen and we don't judge. So feel free to point out all of my flaws in the comments section and share your experiences.
This little girl almost ruined this experiment. She got into the plants. I know. Vera. What are you doing? What are you doing in the plants? You're not allowed. She was fully sitting in a pot. You were sitting in a pot and eating the plant in the pot next to it. Next to the one that you were sitting in. I know. Good girl.
The seeds that I got of Lisianthus are Voyage 2, yellow, the Arena 3 apricot, Arena 3 baby pink. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how these grow. The great thing about Johnny's is they have a lot of information about growing, and they include the minimum seeds per packet, 50 seeds. These are all pelleted seeds because Lizzie's are so tiny. The seeds for them are so tiny, so it makes it a little bit easier to grow. We'll start with the baby pink, apricot, and yellow over here. So there's approximately 50 per seed. You could barely see them in there.
There's about 50 seeds in there.
And I know that you could plant 2 per cell per block, but I'm going to plant 1 per block because, again, this is an experiment. And I'm going to use this thing that they gave me so it's easier. I'm going to try this with a toothpick. So there we have it. Brownies. There we go. We got them set up with heat mats and plastic, and I've got labeling. There's little, they had to put labels on the Voyager yellow, but just unburied these. It's the first week of February, and I still have more to go. Also just unburied these. There's about a foot of snow on top of them. So we shall see. So it is a red letter day, February 5th, 2026. I just took the wrap off. And if you look very closely, I germinated my first Lisianthus. The arena varieties have a little ways to go. So if you look very closely, I got a lemon seed to germinate. I had it sitting in the windowsill, and I'm realizing after quick search online, they need darkness to germinate. So I'm going to do a little bit more searching to see, now that it's merged, does it need to be in the sun or not? I'm going to keep the humidity dome on though. I just watered it, so we'll see. Stay tuned. It's Thursday, February 12th. These are the Voyager 2 yellow. And I gotta say, it's actually easier to see the seedlings when I'm filming than it is with the naked eye, because they are so tiny. And with the naked eye, from a distance, it looks like nothing's happening. Like there's maybe 3 or 4 blocks with green. But when I'm filming and I zoom in, never mind that there's one missing on the end. That soil block fell apart when I was moving my tray. So humidity dome off, got them off the heat, keep the light on. This one, which I'll show, these are the arenas, and they're a little bit slower. So I left them on the heat mat and under the humidity, and we'll see how they're doing in a second. Okay, so these ones are doing not as well. They were all sowed the same day. Actually, these ones were obviously planted after these ones were sowed because I filled that tray. I very painstakingly and gingerly took off the plastic wrap, and as you can see, you know, there's some moss growing. That is to be expected when they're, you know, the soil is warm and moist. So I'm going to leave the plastic wrap off for a little bit to get some air. The seeds are still, anything that has germinated is still going to be okay, but there is germination. It's just not. And one thing that I think I did differently too, I don't know, is I think the vermiculate, when I put a layer of vermiculate on these ones, it was a little bit thicker layer than with these ones. I think it was a little bit more evenly dispersed. So maybe these ones didn't get, I don't know, it's a theory, or it could just be the seed, I don't know. But some of them, when I zoom in, you could see there are some coming up. So there's that block, that one. This one looks too much vermiculate maybe. This one, I think that's the seed. So that has not germinated. And then the baby pink are on that end. Here it gets a little bit trickier in the camera to tell the difference between the moss and the seedlings. But of this bottom row, I'd say there's 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 5 blocks on the bottom row have germinated. So they are there. They're just so tiny and harder to tell the difference with the moss that's growing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the foil off. I think even though they're not as germinated as the other ones, I think I'm going to take away the heat in the plastic humidity dome. Yeah, these ones on this end are not doing as good. And get some more air. I have the fan going in here, but I'll maybe turn it up a little bit higher to keep the algae from growing. So this is how you know you're a plant addict. I showed up at the garden center an hour earlier than they open, thinking that they open at 8, but they don't. They open at 9 apparently. So, but it's okay. I have my, it's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. I got my pink donut. We've been eating super healthy lately, so this is gonna be probably a sugar rush. And I got my sugar-free almond latte, which is very good. It's probably filled with other kinds of chemicals, being sugar-free, but anyway. Strawberry. boy. More seeds. And of course I couldn't go without some plants. And look at this. Oh my gosh. Not allowed in the garden, but can look out the window and hold my little baby house plant. Nerve plant, I think is what it is. I got these cool window shelves that are clear acrylic, I believe. I have a really awesome window that gets south-facing light, and what better place to put them? I was pretty sure that I ordered 4 of them, so maybe there's 2 per container. I don't know. But at least to put 3 here and then 1 upstairs or 1 in the other window over here. But let's see how this goes. Let's see what the movie trivia question is for today. Did you get it? She's looking for a way to get up there. But she can't. Don't even think about it. So today I am prepping my soil for soil blocks. I have my soil, I'm using Coco Loco, and I learned from planting my Lisianthus that, 1, don't forget to sift your soil, because it's really important for soil blocks so that they stay together. 1, I'm remembering to do that this time around, but 2, when you sift your soil, make sure the soil is dry, because if it's wet, just like in baking, if the flour is wet, it's gonna be too sticky and it's not going to go through, and it's gonna take a while. Whereas if it's dry, it'll come through a lot quicker and it'll save you a lot of time. So let's get started, and then we'll get to the next part, which is inoculating my seeds before I then sow them. And stay tuned. All right, so that's about a almost full bag of soil that has been sifted of the 12-quart bags of Coco Loco, which, you know, the ingredients are, the main, instead of peat, is coco coir, 50 to 60%. Aged forest products, that's where you're getting those, some wood chips and things like that. Perlite particles, and fertilizer, which is derived from earthworm castings, bat guano, kelp meal, oyster shell, and dolomite lime. So this is, it's a 12-quart bag. I used about, let's guess, maybe a quart of it yesterday when I was repotting some plants that I got from the garden center. But this is I only used a little bit. This is what's left when we sift the soil, and it is perfect for soil blocking. And this is, nope, Harmony, no. This is the, this and this. I ran out of space in this sifter for the stuff that was sifted out, which is primarily your rocks and forest products and some of the coconut coir husks. So I'm going to keep this for, you know, house plants and potting things that need a layer of moisture, soil protection. So I'm not just going to throw this out. I'm going to keep it on hand for covering soil in my houseplants. But yeah, so I'm excited to
start soil blocking. All right, so we've got our soil blocks ready to go. So now I got to inoculate my seeds. What I have, so I have my packet of seeds ready to go. Again, I'm going to plant the Chantilly Cream Yellow Hybrid Snapdragons here. These are already planted. These are the Lisianthus Voyager 2 Yellow. So this is going to be my yellow tray, basically. I have this seed disperser. I don't even know what it's officially called, but I'm going to use it. I have it set to 0. I'm going to use it to mix my water, non-chlorinated. This is actually melted snow from outside. And some maple syrup, which adds a little sugar to the inoculants, which is fungus. It gives them kind of a head start. So let's mix the water and maple syrup together. All right, so that is mixed. I don't know if you can really tell in the light, but it's pretty evenly mixed. Back. So I'm just going to put my seeds in here and then pour it all in so it's a little slurry. So I'm not going to pour the whole packet because there's apparently 250 seeds in here. And they are tiny. They're a packet within a packet. And these are Johnny's. You know what? I'm just going to do all of them. That does not look like 250 seeds. We will find out when we start doing the soil blocking. But this is just the water and maple syrup mix. Oh. It did a pretty good job of preventing the water from getting out. So I'm going to switch it over to 1. And a little bit of, just a pinch of each inoculant. Way too much. Well, it's going to make it hard to see the seeds. And I might have ruined this batch because I poured too much. So that just made a mess. Somewhere in this middle square is my packet of apparently 250 seeds. Looked like about 25 tiny minuscule seeds, but we shall see. I am going to cover this with plastic wrap as a humidity dome, and we'll see what happens. But we got to get to the George Eastman house for the Dutch connection. Bye.
So with a new learned experience under my belt on inoculating seeds, I ended up using that extra block of soil blocks for violas. But now for the George Eastman house. George Eastman, for those of you who may not know, is the founder of Kodak, and his house, actually a mansion, has been turned into a museum that people can visit every year. And every year around this time in February, there is an event called the Dutch Connection, where they have a forest bulbs display, and it really is an homage to George Eastman's love and his mother's love of gardens and flowers and brightening up the long, cold winters that we tend to have here in Rochester, New York. This was our first time visiting the George Eastman house during the Dutch Connection, and I highly recommend it. They will have some organ music playing in the background. It's a great opportunity to see some color during this time of year. But I also recommend, if you're new to Rochester and you've never visited the George Eastman house before, or if you're from Rochester and you've never been there before, I highly recommend visiting and going on a full guided tour of the George Eastman house. It is amazing. The theater that is attached to it, the Dryden Theater, of course, if you're the founder of Kodak, you have a theater in your home, still shows black and white movies, independent films, and you can look up their schedule and see what is showing. But additionally, you can go on a tour of the film collection and the house to get to know George Eastman and the impact he's had on, as you know, Kodak is very impactful in the film industry. But in addition to that, the gardens outside are gorgeous. If you're here watching this video, you're probably a fan of gardening and flowers and plants and landscapes. So I highly recommend visiting, if you can, in May during the other event that is really big in Rochester, and that is the Lilac Festival. It's always the 2 weeks surrounding Mother's Day weekend. It's a great time to check out the lilacs that are in bloom, thousands of varieties of lilacs, in addition to azaleas and other flowers. But in addition to that, you can go on a tour of the George Eastman house, which is not too far away from the Highland Park where the Lilac Festival is located. And you can get a tour of the gardens around the George Eastman house. It is amazing. Some wisteria growing along trellises. It's really a beautiful location, and a lot of people have weddings here. It's just everything is in bloom and fragrant. We also visited the cafe that is part of the George Eastman house as well. It's open to any visitors to the museum basically every day of the week, but Mondays. It looks like they're closed on Mondays. I have to say, Open Face is the name of the restaurant. It was incredible. They had some really good options, but also it's gluten-free, friendly, and vegetarian, vegan options. Some really good food there. So later that evening, after touring the George Eastman house, I decided, you know what, I'm going to learn how to apply this inoculant to my seeds in a better way. So I had some eucalyptus seeds that I am also trying to grow this year. And instead of mixing the seeds into the inoculant, I decided, you know what, let's try it with mixing the inoculant and sowing the seeds into the soil blocks first, and then applying the inoculant on top of the seeds while they're already in the soil. This was my test before planting the rest of my Snapdragons, which I knew the seeds were a little bit smaller. The eucalyptus seeds were also pretty small, but not as small as Snapdragons. And the Snapdragons are not pelleted seeds, so they are harder to see. whereas the mycorrhiza mixed with the azospirillum is a dark color, which makes it hard to see. So I'm using all the same ingredients as the first time around. I'm using water, which is distilled. You could use melted snow, you could use water that is distilled water, or water that has been sitting out. Basically, you just don't want chlorinated water that would kill the mycorrhiza. Mixed that with some maple syrup. You could also use molasses or other pure food source for the fungus, for the mycorrhiza. And from there, I mixed it with my inoculant. So here I am sowing my seeds into the soil blocks. I have them separated based on the types of seeds that are growing. 2 different types of eucalyptus are going in here. And eucalyptus is something I'm really looking forward to having in the landscape if it can survive my landscape. I ordered 2 different varieties of eucalyptus. One is baby blue bouquet, which is a smaller variety. The other, which is on the longer row on top, is the silver dollar, which is a little bit larger.
Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. Everyone who plants gardens, does anything with raised beds, the most expensive part of gardening. It's not the plants, it's not the seeds. Even for us seedaholics, even for us, the most expensive part of gardening is the dirt that you put your plants in. It should be soil. It shouldn't be dirt. If there's any way that we can, decrease the costs of that while also helping the earth, I'm all about it. I feel like I've been composting my entire life. When I was a kid, I grew up in a rural area. Primarily, things went to the chickens, things went into the garden, things went into our compost pile. I would argue the majority of the things that are waste in your everyday life are things that are compostable. And it's only those rare things that can't be, composted that end up, sadly, in a landfill. I wanted to do an experiment, and I want to see if I can use the soil that I get from my kitchen compost instead of potting soil that I get from the garden center. Let's see. I do have a few soil tests. There's 3 different ones. There's an NPK, a pH meter, and a moisture meter. I mostly care about the NPK value because I'm curious, and the pH because I'm also curious. But there are additional soil tests you can purchase, which I'm considering doing, which give you a whole lot more detail as far as the specific compounds that are in your soil and what you need to boost, what you need to decrease, or what you just need to be mindful of, what kind of plants will do well in that kind of soil. So let's get started and see what happens. By the way, do you want to see my mug? What's the movie trivia of the day? Let's check it out. Did you get it? Today, I am going to finish sowing my Snapdragons, and also my stock. So I have a lot of seeds to sow today. And so I have 2 left. I already sowed the Chantilly cream yellow, are already sowed. I also have Chantilly light salmon and Avignon light rose. What I'm going to do instead this time is inoculate my seeds as I am sowing them. So I'm going to use a little bit of a different method. I'm going to create my blocks ahead of time. I'm going to mix my slurry, this is my little slushy stuff that is the inoculant. I'm going to put a little dropper of that in each hole. And then I'm going to sow my seeds with my toothpick and not worry about, you know, getting my toothpick wet with my mouth and getting inoculant in my mouth. I will be happy if I get just one Chantilly cream yellow Snapdragon this year. Maybe they'll all come up, we'll see, but I don't even know if any of the seeds got... I probably have 25 seeds in one soil block. It was a disaster. And then I am also going to start sowing my stock. So I have quite a few varieties of these. I probably went overboard, but I think these are going to do well in the climate that we're in, which is a little bit more temperate. We have in Rochester, we kind of have a long, compared to a lot of my gardening peers that I'm following on YouTube, we tend to have a longer spring. So we do have a risk of snow in May, but for the most part, my crocuses are coming up in March. So, you know, I think of my friend Trish's birthday, March 24th, I'm always seeing crocuses coming up on that date. And we might get, you know, a dusting, a layer of snow. And all of these seeds are cold tolerant, or in fact, like cold. So I'm just going to go for it. So the varieties of stock that I have that I'm trying for the first time are iron apricot, iron purple, and then the rest are Cat's varieties. We're going to see how they do. So this is the Cat's cherry blossom, the Cat's purple, Cat's apricot, and Cat's yellow. So you can kind of tell I have kind of a palette going here of apricots, yellows, and purples. And I love pinks as well. I'm not sure if I'll get any baby pink arena Lisianthus. We'll see. Those are slow growers. I'm following a soil block recipe from one of my favorite channels, Blossom and Branch Regenerative Gardening with Brianna. And she actually has a book out, which I am in the process of ordering, so I'm looking forward to getting that in the mail soon. So go check out her YouTube channel for this. But she has done quite a few soil tests, which I've checked out over the years. And this one I'm following is Coco Loco with wool pellets.
The seeds that I'm getting ready to soil block for here are my stock flowers, starting with the iron variety, purple and apricot. And as if I didn't have enough experiments going on, I decided to use my stock as a guinea pig for my kitchen compost soil test. So the first batch here of iron variety, I did 4 squares, 2 squares with the kitchen compost and wool on the right, and then on the left side is just the Coco Loco plus wool recipe. I also did Cat's variety of stock, and same thing, 4 squares. However, in this batch, I mixed all of it together. The kitchen compost from my Reencle kitchen composter with Coco Loco with wool. I'm also inoculating my seeds for both the Cat's and iron varieties of stock. And this is a great thing to do for all of your seeds. However, I realized after this that stock is part of the brassica family, which doesn't make associations with mycorrhiza. However, it does with azospirillum. So either way, the seeds are inoculated, and mycorrhiza is good for the soil health in general, regardless of the fact that it doesn't really have an effect on the seeds in this case. The dropper that I'm using is actually a great find as part of the soil test kit that I purchased at the garden center, and it's really easy to clean out, so I think I'm going to continue using this method for inoculating my seeds in soil blocks, particularly if they're really small seeds. So now with my seeds sown and inoculated, I'm just adding a thin layer of vermiculite, which will help with algae prevention, and putting them under some plastic wrap for humidity and close to my grow lights. All right, so it's probably too late in the season to try this again. It was probably too late in the season to start them the first time around. The first batch of seeds that I grew indoors were my January 28th first ever seeds sown indoors. Of course, they had to be Lisianthus. I should have actually probably, and I will do this next year, probably the first week of December would be the best time to start them because they take a long time, but also I could plant them out probably late March, early April if they were at the stage that they needed to be. So next year I'm going to try to sow them probably in December, maybe even November. But it is now February 22nd. So let's see how we do with our second batch of Lisianthus. And this will be a learning curve as well. And if I do everything right this time around, then at least I know, okay, let's do it exactly this way, but start a few months earlier. So either way, it will not be a loss because it will be a learning experience. So let's get started, shall we? So it is February 22nd, and we have stock babies. So there's 4 squares and 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 blocks per square. I have this tray of cats stock, purple on the right front, yellow on the left front, and then cherry blossom and apricot in the back. The yellow, which I'm finding to be the case for a lot of different flowers, different types of flowers. The yellow varieties I'm finding are always the first to germinate. So these are yellows, yellow cats. And these are the purple. We have a few just starting to come up. The back corner is apricot that's covered in plastic still. They have not germinated at all yet. The cherry blossom cats are here as well. They, on the packet for Johnny's, had the lowest germination percentage. So I'm impressed with these ones. And letting them get a little bit of air because I don't want algae to form. And I also don't want them to stick to the plastic, which I've learned from my first batch of Lisianthus. These seedlings are a little bit bigger
when they germinate than Lizzie's. So slightly less risk of that. But even though these ones look like there's not a whole lot going on, when you zoom in pretty close, there's something happening in each one almost.
So with my resolve to reorder Lisianthus seeds and start over with those seeds, this time doing it a little bit differently, and with my newfound hope from the germination I've seen from my stock varieties, I've decided to repurpose the soil that I used for my original Lisianthus batch and set aside a few of those Lisianthus seeds to winter sow. I've seen some people with success with winter sowing Lisianthus, so a handful of seeds went into each, while the rest went into new and improved soil blocks. Well, you are.
This leash is extra long. Do you notice this?
I can see sidewalk. I can see clearly now. The snow is gone. I can see grass, sort of.
It is Saturday, February 28th, the last day of the month. I want to do a status check of all of the seeds that I've sown so far, give you all a status update. And this morning at the bird feeder, I saw a robin. So spring is right around the corner, folks. Some of the snow has started to melt the last 2 days. It's been in the 40s. We're supposed to get cold again tonight and tomorrow, and it's supposed to snow again, but these are little winks and nods from the universe saying, hey, spring is around the corner. Let's see how my seeds are doing.
I would go in the order in which they were sown, but I gotta be honest, I'm too excited to share these stock Cats variety with all of you. These were the variety of plants and the plants in addition to the Lisianthus that I assumed would be the hardest to grow. But it turns out that they were the quickest to germinate, and they are doing really well. All of the colors in the Cats variety are doing well. And they are getting their first set of leaves, true leaves, and in some cases, second set of true leaves. It's easy to now distinguish between which ones will be doubles and which ones will be singles. The ones that have a merged leaf, those will be singles. The ones that have two distinctive separated leaves will be doubles. And so I'm really looking forward to having them in the landscape and having some cut flower bouquets. There's a perfect example of a single and double, and a single and double again. There's a few that are still emerging as well. And the height difference is interesting to me in these ones, particularly this square, because I'm not sure if that's a good thing, a bad thing, or if it is not a big deal. The cherry blossom variety, which did have the lowest germination percentage on the packet, fewer of those have germinated, but even the ones that the cell blocks that are seemingly empty do have germination as well, just starting a little bit later. So I am still keeping them very close to the light. No heat mat for these guys. And as soon as there was germination, which actually took place in about 4 days, I took the plastic wrap off. And I've been watering them and spritzing them every day. As for the rest of our seeds, we'll go back in order of sowing. And yes, these are the 3 remaining OG Lisianthus from my first ever seeds sown indoors. And they have their first set of true leaves and possibly second set of true leaves right in the center there. I have no idea if these are the baby pink, apricot, or yellow, or it could be one of each. Now back to our February 15th experiment, where I decided to inoculate my seeds in a different way. I decided to sow eucalyptus, which is a plant that, again, if I only had 1 or 2 plants this year, that would be good enough for me. But I may have more than that. And I have been reading up on them that they love moisture and darkness to germinate. So I've been keeping the plastic wrap over them and to keep the moisture in. And everything that I've been reading also indicates that they are slow growers to germinate as well. But I am happy to share that we do have some germination and a little bit more in the baby blue bouquet, which is what we're looking at right now. And it is to be expected that there will be some algae growing when you have moisture and light coming through. So I'm just going to take a toothpick and scrape off some of the algae, but there are 4 or 5 blocks so far, and I'm not convinced that they're done. There might be some more. So as for the silver dollar, they are a little bit slower. And so far, not a whole lot going on, but we do have 1 germinating so far. So I'm going to keep the soil moist. I'm also going to keep them on the heat mat so the humidity is up as well, and keep the plastic covering over them and see how they do. So if you remember earlier that day on February 15th, when I tried inoculating my seeds for the first time, and it was a disaster. I made a mess everywhere. Well, these are the Chantilly yellow Snapdragons that I sowed in a disastrous way. So I basically mixed my inoculant and my seeds together, which are unpelleted, and it was really hard to see the seeds after doing that. So I just poured the batch of inoculated seeds liquid over the soil blocks. And we do have germination. It will probably be hard to pull them apart. We shall see. And they're at all different stages of growth. But we will have some yellow Snapdragons this year. And because I had an extra square of soil blocks remaining after my disastrous attempt of inoculating seeds, I ended up sowing a packet of violas here. I have never sowed violas indoors before. I've always either winter sowed them or just planted them out. And the packet of seeds was so many that it filled both the soil blocks and this container of soil, which is actually showing more success. There could be a number of reasons for that. This is repurposed soil from the soil blocks that didn't work, and it's contained in a container with plastic over it. So maybe the humidity is helping. I don't know. These will be even harder to pull apart, but hey, it was worth the experiment. And you can never have too many violas. All right, so this is the iron stock variety. This is another soil test that I'm doing. The key difference between these two are that on this side, we have my Reencle kitchen compost
in place of any soil with wool. So just seeing if I can use my kitchen compost in place of potting soil, which would be really convenient, right? Not having to buy any potting soil, or at least for starting seeds. On this side, we have the Coco Loco with wool, nothing else. So no kitchen compost at all on this side. If you'll note, the Cats variety that I showed before that had all germination, that was a mix of the Coco Loco wool and the kitchen compost, all mixed together and all equally germinating. Here, I'm not seeing any germination at all in the compost plus wool soil mix. On this side, the Coco Loco plus wool only mix, we do have germination. And let me turn the tray again. And we do have germination. And not all blocks, but most blocks. So the apricot iron, you can see one, all just interesting that it's at different stages. And then a few of them are just starting to come out. And same thing with the purple. We have one quicker than the rest, and others just starting to come out. Really have to look close. I have found that I sometimes can see better with my phone. Like, I would never have seen that one. But we do have germination. We just won't have as many of the iron stock variety. And I'm glad I did this experiment because I don't think I'll be using kitchen compost by itself, at least not by itself, in seed starting. And as for the Snapdragons, these are the Chantilly light salmon. These were sown the next day after the stalks on February 18th, and in about a week's time, they have shown emergence. Little by little, they are starting to pop out of their soil blocks. Nearly every soil block, some of them you can see very easily from a distance, others you have to look very closely, but they are there. So they are not on a heat mat anymore. They are under plastic wrap. I used less vermiculite because I wanted to make sure that the light, even though I have the light really close to them, I wanted to make sure that it was not getting in the way of the seeds' access to that light. And so far, so good. And the same is true for the Avignon Light Rose variety of Snapdragons. In fact, those seem to be a little bit further along. Almost 100% germination. The original Lisianthus, 3 remaining blocks are sharing a tray with these guys because they are not on a heat mat. They are no longer under plastic cover, but they are being misted and watered daily. I really look forward to seeing these guys in the landscape and in bouquets. And last but not least, our most recent batch of Lisianthus. These are the new colors that I have ordered along with the old to retry growing them. And we have germination.
It's really hard to see because they are very small, but there are a handful of blocks that have emerged even in that short amount of time since sowing them on the 22nd. This square of blocks is half of the Lavender Voyage 2 variety, and the other half is on another tray. One thing that I've noticed, and I think I should have noticed this with my previous batch, is that in some cases I could see the pelleted seed on top of the soil block fully intact. So I think the pelleted seeds were not getting as saturated, even though the soil was moist and I was misting daily and it was under a humidity dome. Part of me is wondering if the pelleting process differs for different varieties, and for some seeds they have an easier time emerging from pelleted seeds, while others struggle a little bit more because these Voyage 2 seem to have no trouble emerging, whereas momentarily you'll see in the Arena varieties the pellets were fully intact even with my second batch of Arenas. These are the blue Voyage 2 variety. This larger square of blocks are the Coco Loco plus wool soil recipe, and the smaller number that we already looked at were the Fox Farm potting soil with wool. And we're seeing pretty equal germination across the board. So if you wanted to go peat free, you should have no trouble with Coco Loco and wool. You will see, as we're seeing here, and since they're under a humidity dome and they're under plastic wrap and consistently getting moisture and light, that there will be algae. Even with using vermiculite, that's okay. Just take a toothpick and scrape it away and they will be fine. You could also sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon on top of your soil blocks to serve as an antifungal. These seeds are not inoculated, so I could do that. It would make the room smell very delicious, but I am going to try to just scrape away the top algae layer, and that should be sufficient. And last but not least, these are the rest of the new batch of Lisianthus, the same original varieties and colors that I ordered, plus the other half of the lavender packet. We have the 2 Arena varieties on the left, baby pink and apricot, and then we have lavender in the third block. And on the far right, we have the Voyager 2 yellow. And there is emergence in some of our blocks. What I was noticing, as I've said earlier, is that some of the pellets have not fully dissolved. Not so much with the Voyager varieties, but more so with the Arena varieties. So what I've done is I've taken my toothpick, and for those pelleted seeds that I could see very clearly were not yet dissolved, I took my toothpick and I very gently pressed on the pelleted seed, and the seed emerged. And so then I gave it a little bit of water, again very gently to make sure it wasn't displaced. And I am optimistic that we'll have better luck this time around with our Arena varieties. It might just be the variety that has a harder time breaking through the pellets. And I'm thinking maybe next year when I order Lisianthus, looking to see if it's possible to order seeds that are not pelleted. Maybe I'll have a better experience with germination. Maybe it'll be a little bit more similar to our Snapdragons.
So that about does it for this month's adventures in seed starting. This is all new to me, starting seeds indoors. I usually, as I've shared before, I usually direct sow or, have purchased at the garden center and have been a green thumb in that capacity of taking care of a mostly perennial landscape. Some fun things that are coming up in March. I have quite a few deliveries that will be coming in either in March or April. I keep checking the status of my orders to see what ships in spring specifically mean. Quite a few dahlias, some ranunculus. I do have a few perennial bushes and flowering shrubs coming in as well. I'm really excited to share all of those updates. Stay tuned for updates if you want to stay engaged, and if you want to share your own experiences with seed starting and your own trial and error, please do engage with the channel by commenting, like, subscribe so you get updates. All right, take care. Oh, and did you get those trivia questions right?